Supported by SMC Global Power, North Luzon Express Terminal, RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation, Stark Molecular Laboratory.
Israeli troops tear gas Palestinian protesters in the West Bank.
A Palestinian lawyer and a teenager were killed as tensions heightened after a religious site was vandalized. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am CJ Hirro.
And I'm Nina Ricci, Alagao, Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Tonight's top stories.
Moscow warns of more attacks on Kyiv. More than 340 dead in South African floods. U.S. senators defy the Chinese government's threats with a recent visit to Taiwan. 4 people arrested in plot to kidnap German health minister and cause a nationwide blackout. And former U.S. President Barack Obama headlines own Netflix show.
Anticipating the lowering demand for Russian energy from the West, President Vladimir Putin called for a diversification of energy exports toward Asia.
Диверсифицировать экспорт. Будем исходить из того, что в обозримой перспективе поставки энергоресурсов в западном направлении все-таки будут сокращаться.
He also criticized moves by European countries to ban Russia's energy exports.
Европейские страны постоянно ведут разговоры об отказе от российских поставок, чем дополнительно дестабилизируют рынок и сами своими руками.
Speaking at the end of the meeting, Putin said Russia will expand gas supplies in its domestic market. He also called for the acceleration of infrastructure projects such as railways, pipelines, and ports that will redirect oil and gas supplies from the West to promising markets in the East and South.
Russia's defense ministry warned that it will intensify attacks on the Ukrainian capital Kyiv in response to strikes on Russian soil. This was after Russia accused Ukraine of targeting Russian border towns. The number and scale of missile strikes against targets in Kyiv will increase in response to any terrorist attacks or sabotage committed by the Kyiv nationalist regime on Russian territory. The ministry said that in its daily update. It added that Russian troops using Caliber C-based long-range missiles hit a military factory outside Kyiv. Russia also said that the strike on the Zhulyansky machine-building plant Vizar, the workshops for the production and repair of long-range and medium-range anti-aircraft missile systems, as well as anti-ship missiles, were destroyed. Earlier, Russian ministry reported that their 510-crew missile ship Moskva sunk due to an explosion and the stormy seas. However, Ukraine said that its missiles hit the Russia's warship.
U.S. President Joe Biden said he was considering sending senior U.S. officials to Ukraine in what would be a major show of support to Kyiv. When asked if he would send officials to Ukraine, Biden said they are making that decision now, but he did not specify which officials might be under consideration. In a brief back and forth with a reporter, Biden appeared to suggest he might also be willing to travel to Kyiv.
Ukraine. Will you send senior officials to Ukraine?
We're making that decision now. Thank you.
Who would you send?
What was the reason? You ready to go? Yeah.
Potential U.S. officials on any visit to Kyiv could include Secretary of State Antony Blinken or Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. State Department spokesman Ned Price declined to comment.
Latest provincial police office confirmed that the number of fatalities in Baybay City and Abuyog town due to tropical depression Agaton has increased to 147. Police said 101 of the dead bodies were from Baybay City. Meanwhile, Abuyog town has listed 46 new casualties after 11 more bodies were found on Thursday afternoon. Additionally, according to Abuyog Mayor Jimuel Quintraya, at least 150 residents from the municipality are still missing. On the other hand, the Department of Agriculture said the damage due to Agaton has swelled to 639.7 million pesos. Affected commodities include rice, corn, high-value crops, and livestock.
The death toll from flooding in the port city of Durban, South Africa, has risen to more than 340 people. The numbers are expected to rise as scores of people are still missing, according to some officials. Helicopters have fanned out over the city in a desperate search for survivors. Non-governmental organizations have been distributing food and essentials. But roads and bridges have been washed out, making the delivery of supplies to trapped residents an almost impossible task. In some regions, more than 18 inches of rain fell in a 2-day period, and that is nearly half of Durban's annual rainfall. Travis Trower of the volunteer-run organization Rescue South Africa said he's never seen a disaster this bad.
The devastation is quite vast. I mean, every single little stream or tributary turned out into a raging river. There's a lot of houses that have collapsed, a lot of buildings that have been washed away. The community is affected in a massive way. I think it's going to take... I've been working in search and rescue for almost 20 years. I am a Natal boy, so I'm from here, and this is the worst disaster that I've seen hit Natal in 20 years.
The South African Weather Service has issued thunderstorm and localized flood warnings for the weekend.
A teenager was killed on the 5th day of Israeli raids in the West Bank. This happened in the midst of deadly attacks and heightened tensions in the Jewish state after a religious site was vandalized. The Palestinian Health Ministry said the teenager was shot during the aggression on Hussan in the southern West Bank. The army said in a statement that soldiers shot a Palestinian suspect who had hurled a Molotov cocktail at them, adding that troops used live ammunition in order to stop the immediate threat. A community leader in Hussan told AFP the deceased was 16-year-old Kusai Hamamrah. Hundreds of Palestinians were rioting in the area following the incident, according to the army.
In related news, Israeli troops shot dead a Palestinian in the city of Nablus on the 5th day of military operations in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry identified the victim as Muhammad Hassan Muhammad Asaf, who died after being shot in the chest by the Israeli occupation army during the aggression on the city of Nablus. The Israeli army did not immediately comment, but had earlier said that troops were conducting counter-terrorism operations in Nablus and other West Bank cities. The Palestinian Red Crescent Medical Service reported 31 people were injured at the site and in a nearby village, including 10 people hit with live fire. The Palestinian Prisoners Club, meanwhile, reported 14 new arrests overnight across the West Bank. Israeli public radio said troops entered Nablus to escort Israeli workers who were to repair the damage done by Palestinians to a site Jews revere as the Tomb of Joseph.
A delegation of U.S. lawmakers led by vocal China hawk Senator Lindsey Graham arrived in Taiwan for a two-day trip. Beijing threatened strong measures in response. The group, which also includes Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Menendez, is making the latest in a string of visits by foreign politicians to the island in defiance of pressure from Beijing. A U.S. government plane touched down in Taipei for what Washington's de facto embassy said were talks on U.S.-Taiwan relations, regional security, and other significant issues of mutual interests. Taiwan's foreign ministry said the group would meet President Tsai Ing-wen, Foreign Minister Joseph Wu, and defense officials. China's foreign ministry warned the U.S. senators against going down on the wrong and dangerous path ahead of their arrival, saying China will continue to take strong measures to resolutely safeguard its national sovereignty and territorial integrity. A Swedish parliamentary delegation is also currently in Taiwan.
German authorities have arrested 4 COVID-19 protesters in a plot to kidnap the country's health minister. German's Interior Minister Nancy Faeser, who is shown on the screen, said the government will not be intimidated. The 4 suspects are members of a far-right anti-lockdown group with pro-Russian leanings. Aside from the kidnap plot, it had planned several explosive attacks and other acts of violence. Investigators said one of the group's targets is a power plant in order to cause a prolonged nationwide blackout. Coming right up, wholesale inflation rate in the U.S. rising steeply, retail sales weakened. Trading in burial plots, a lucrative business in Pakistan. And emergency use of the first COVID-19 breathalyzer approved by the U.S. FDA. These and more when stories around the globe return on Mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart, Arlex Trading and Construction Supplies.
Love is all about time. Di minamadali ang pag-prepare. Di minamadali ang pagsasama-sama. Di minamadali ang pagpapasarap. Like the love in every Pure Foods ready-to-eat. Slow cooked and ready in 8 minutes. Sarap na di minadali, ngayon pinadaling lutuin para may time ka sa mga mahal mo. Because love takes time. Pure Foods ready-to-eat.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Wholesale inflation rate in the United States rose steeply in the month of March. This has driven consumers to worry even more about the skyrocketing prices of goods at a rate described as the fastest in 40 years. Myla Simbulan reports.
U.S. government says rising fuel prices amid the war in Ukraine drive U.S. wholesale inflation up sharply in March. Pushing the increase for the last 12 months up 11.2%. It is the biggest annual increase since the Labor Department reformulated the Producer Price Index, or PPI, in November 2010 and follows 3 months of wholesale inflation over 10%. Prices have been accelerating for months as the U.S. economy recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic shutdowns and demand outstrips supply. The data follows a report showing consumer prices in March increased at the fastest pace since December 1981. Excluding energy, food, and trade services, the annual PPI has risen 7%. Economy Shepherdson says core PPI inflation probably has now peaked, but the speed of the downturn over the next few months is uncertain. He adds serious supply chain problems persist. Myla Simbulan, Mata ng Agila International, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. Trusted, connected, on point.
Retail sales in the U.S. rose slightly in March, up just 0.5%. This was less than the 0.8% that had been forecast. According to the U.S. Commerce Department, people spent more on gasoline but less at auto dealers. Higher prices for food, energy, and shelter also prompted consumers to pare back their discretionary purchases. Interestingly, if gasoline purchases are excluded from the numbers, the value of retail sales actually dropped 0.3%.
A UK farmer says hundreds of tons of his beetroot crop this year is being left to rot after demand from his EU clients ground to a halt. Alongside cereals and spring onions, Will Woodhull grows beetroot. But he said he will lose around 90,000 pounds or more than $117,000 worth of produce this season. This was after he had been told by his marketing agent that his EU clients no longer want raw food from the UK.
Yeah, so this beetroot behind you was destined for European markets, juicing and into punnets. We sent half the contract and basically they said there was no more home for it after that.
The farmer said he plans to turn the decomposing vegetables into compost and farm alternative crops.
A member of the notorious Islamic State kidnap and murder cell known as the Beatles was found guilty of all charges for the deaths of 4 American hostages in Syria. The U.S. federal court convicted El-Shafi El-Sheikh of 8 counts of kidnapping and conspiracy to commit murder of U.S. citizens James Foley, Stephen Sotloff, Peter Kassig, and Kayla Mueller. El-Sheikh now faces life in prison. Foley's mother welcomed the guilty verdicts and said the victims' families did not really need bombs or bullets to bring justice. They all felt that with El-Sheikh's conviction, justice really prevailed. Hostages nicknamed El-Sheikh and 2 other men the Beatles because of their British accents.
How can climate change be given the attention it deserves? For a climate activist group in the UK, putting pressure on national and business leaders through activism is the answer. Our UK correspondent Ryan Bernardino has the story.
UK climate activist group Extinction Rebellion stages protests outside the headquarters of the Royal Dutch Shell, a multinational oil and gas company in central London, as part of a program of civil disobedience with the aim of stopping the fossil fuel economy. Outside, 100 people from XR held up a placard with the name of an individual Shell employee and the words, "Please join us," while activists also handed out flyers to staff, urging them to switch to the right side of history. While the protests took place in and outside the Shell building, another group who said they were scientists superglued themselves to an entrance of the nearby Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy as they continue to call for immediate action on climate change.
They have so much money, they can invest in renewables, they can transition all of their workers to an economy that is based in renewable energy. They can continue to be an energy company. They are an energy company. They don't have to be a fossil fuel company.
The entire focus is on an immediate demand, which is to cut all fossil fuel subsidies, no new investment, no new licenses. So it's calling for an absolute end to the commitment to any further fossil fuels.
From the United Kingdom, I'm Ryan Florentino for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Graveyards are filling up in Karachi, and that has created a black market for burial spots. In cemeteries that are full, new tombs appear all the time. They are erected on unsmashed or scooped out graves by people charging exorbitant fees. The illicit grave diggers charge up to 20 times the normal burial fee to lay the dead to rest. Freelance grave diggers are operating in several other cities. They justify their work saying they provide an essential service. But people have mixed feelings about the practice. Some view it as part of the faulty fabric of life in a huge city. Others say the shady crews are desecrating the graves of people buried years ago.
The first COVID-19 breathalyzer test has been authorized for emergency use by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The test would evaluate the breath to see if there are chemical compounds associated with SARS-CoV-2 infection present. An instrument the size of a carry-on luggage would be used in analyzing the breath sample. And the collecting of the breath sample as well as the analysis can be done at the actual testing site. In a study, the test was shown to be 91.2% accurate in identifying positive samples and 99.3% correct in analyzing negative ones. Up next, as Omicron wave falls, South Korea to drop most COVID-19 restrictions. Coca Enterprises boss admits taking multi-million-dollar bribes. And scientists decode pig emotions from their sounds. We'll deliver more stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by SCCI Management and Insurance Agency Corporation and Source Alliance.
Totoo bang number 1 sa kids ang tender juicy? Patunayan po natin. Pinaka-tender ba talaga ang TJ? Talaga! Wow. Pinaka-juicy? Truly! Pinaka-masarap? The best! Wow! No more questions, Your Honor. Ubus na po eh. Walang duda! Kids can tell. Pinaka-tender, pinaka-juicy, at pinaka-masarap. Number 1 na tender juicy. May cheese dog at chicken dog pa.
Walang duda! Kids can tell, number 1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy.
noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
As the crisis-stricken world transitions, business leaders are now faced with threats of digital disruption. What choices could be made? What strategies should be implemented? How will CEOs reimagine their leadership in the digital age? Join us today at the CEO Summit 2022 as we feature remarkable executives and get inspired by their unique experiences and ideas on how businesses can manage the next normal and adapt to the fourth industrial revolution.
This feels like the exit gate. Finally, it feels like, okay, this is probably going to be the normal.
I call it empowering the SMEs. It's beyond a financial literacy. It's actually a business management program for all the SMEs.
All these in this episode of Open for Business.
This portion is brought to you by Quezon City Motor Vehicle Inspection Center, Robig Builders.
Anticipating another wave of COVID-19 infections in the coming weeks, health officials in Ontario, Canada strongly recommend mask wearing. The widespread mask mandate won't be reinstated, though. In Toronto, Joshua Santillana reports.
Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore, provides COVID-19 updates as the province experiences its sixth wave of the virus. Dr. Moore discusses the rising number in cases and its cause, the Omicron BA2 variant. BA2 is a sublineage of the Omicron variant that dominated the province's previous wave from December to January. Omicron caused Ontario's largest infection count that reached over 180,000 recorded active cases at its peak. Research shows that the presently dominant BA2 sublineage is more transmissible than the previous COVID variants. Evidence points to BA2's severity being similar to the previous Omicron sublineages, but with its higher transmissibility. It is projected that the province will see an increase in severe cases and therefore may impact Ontario's healthcare system. Moore strongly recommends using masks as protection against the sixth wave, despite the province's decision to remove the mask mandate in March. Although signs of a sixth wave were already evident after the end of the mask mandates, Moore states that the province will not yet reinstate masking requirements at this point in time. As of Sunday, Ontario's recorded number of active cases is over 30,000. This is expected to increase over the upcoming weeks. Joshua Santillana, Matanang Agila International, Toronto, Ontario. Trusted, connected, on point.
South Korea will lift almost all social distancing measures, with the government citing a dramatic fall in COVID-19 cases after an Omicron-fueled surge. The country's mask mandate will nonetheless remain. Starting Monday, the midnight business curfew and the 10-person cap on the size of gatherings will be lifted. Restrictions on eating inside facilities such as cinemas will also be lifted from April 25. The decision marks the end of 2 years of strict distancing requirements and indicates that South Korea is returning to normality. According to authorities, South Koreans will still be required to wear masks indoors for a considerable time ahead. But the requirement to mask outdoors may be lifted in 2 weeks or in 2 weeks' time if cases continue to fall. Around 20,000 people in South Korea have died from the coronavirus. Its 0.13% fatality rate is one of the world's lowest.
April is Autism Acceptance Month in the United States. In observance, deputies in Orange County, Florida, encourage members of the community to help increase awareness on how to keep safe residents with autism spectrum disorder in all situations. In Orlando, Melissa Potes has more.
In 2021, the Center for Disease Control reported that 1 in 44 children in the United States are diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. Approximately 40% of individuals with autism are nonverbal and wander off from safety. As part of Autism Acceptance Month, the Sheriff Department of Orange County reminded its residents of their autism initiative. In an effort to keep residents safe, the goal of the program is to alert first responders that an individual with autism is inside the home or vehicle. Free decals are available for families to place on their front door or in the rear window of their cars and add their address to the dispatch system. First responders need to be aware of individuals who may be nonverbal, unable to follow commands, be unaware of danger, or may run off when responding to emergency calls. Orange County Sheriff John Mina says the more information available allows law enforcement agents to enhance their ability to know what they are getting into. For those who do not live in Orange County, similar decals and wristbands are available for purchase online. Melissa Potes, Mata ng Agila International, Orlando, Florida. Trusted, connected, on point.
A former Coca-Cola Enterprises manager admitted that he took more than 1.5 million pounds in bribes in exchange for helping favored companies win lucrative contracts. Noel Corey provided Bolting Group, Tritech Systems, and Electron Systems with confidential and sensitive data from 2004 to 2013. This data gave the three companies an advantage over rivals in contract bids. Corey received at least £950,000 from Bolting, while Tritech Systems and Electron Systems paid more than £600,000 to him. Alastair Dixon of the CPS said that the Coca-Cola Enterprises were wholly unaware of Corey's corruption. The company added that the contracting company should have compliance measures which would have prevented the payments.
The weather in the western Canadian coastal city of Vancouver is normally mild, but residents woke up to a rare April snowstorm. Snow in Vancouver is seldom seen in April. Since records began in 1937, there have been April snowstorms in the city only 10 of those years, and the last time was back in 2008. The storm dumped several centimeters of snow on city streets. For drivers not used to this, the morning commute was challenging as streets were slippery and visibility reduced. The snow didn't last long as temperatures rose the following day.
If you want to live healthy, the land, water, and air around you must also be healthy. This is the call of community leaders in Papua New Guinea in celebration of World Health Day. In Port Moresby, Echo Hortaleza Quinola has the details.
National Capital District of Papua New Guinea celebrates World Health Day under the theme, Our Planet, Our Health.
The event started with a morning walk and exercise from the Southside Fitness Center to the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium. World Health Organization representative Dr. Sevil Husenova speaks about climate change and its effect on one's health.
This year is our planet, our health, which brings up so planetarian issues like climate change, clean air, like clean water, such matters that matters for our health, right? And why it is important to have a clean air? If we don't protect here in Papua New Guinea today our quality of the air, we might also go in the wrong direction. We can also use not a good source of energy like fossil burning or etc. that can pollute our air. So around the world we always say talk the walk or walk the talk, but let us walk the walk and let us protect our environment, let us protect our planet, let us protect our health. And also I take this opportunity to call everyone, please get vaccinated for COVID-19. Protect yourself, protect your loved ones, and protect the people who are in elder group or more unfortunate positions. You protect me, for example, if you take a vaccine. Thank you.
Other dignitaries and city officials attended the celebration to raise awareness on climate actions needed in keeping humans and the earth healthy.
If I were to have an influence, if I were to have a purpose in my life, if I were to do this, it's for me to tell you, your health is your wealth.
We also have
healthy,
active city development
and we've got a lot of
dance
rich
competition,
food,
which is coming up
the
on May
organic,
31st.
our garden food,
This is an event
fresh
that
fish.
you will not want to miss.
So,
Categories include
sort of learning from the health officers, we sort of change our lifestyle.
A common dance for the
because,
environment and showcase
the
your
statistics
skills for a chance
shows
to
that
win
almost
prizes
60% of
up to 5,000 kina.
the deaths are
Registration
caused by
forms are here at
communicable
Southside Fitness
diseases, which
Center.
lifestyle diseases.
Can be collected from Monday to
I learned a
Friday.
lot today.
Port Moresby Governor Poe Sparkup, the Active City Development Program, the Department of Health, and the World Health Organization have led the celebration. Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Mata ng Agila, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, trusted, connected, on point.
Forget all of your plastic robot toys or the vivid CGI effects. You can feast your eyes on this real-life transformer. Turkish technology and RD company Litrons has made a BMW that can actually morph into a robot. Inspired by Michael Bay's movie franchise Transformers, Litrons has built a full-scale drivable BMW transformer. This BMW can be remotely operated and is capable of doing neck and head movements. It also has dynamic hydraulic controls and can do arm and hand movements. And to top it all off, it has a dynamic or cool dynamic lighting system, and the car can speak.
NASA shared on Instagram a photo taken by Perseverance rover where you can see the marks of its gears on the red planet. It is the 381st day of Perseverance over the J0 crater of Mars. The crater is believed to be a dried-up lake. Astrobiology is part of the rover's mission on Mars, where scientists are looking for possible signs of microbial life on Mars. The Perseverance rover is a six-wheel drive that travels at 0.01 miles per hour.
Deciphering a pig's emotion is now possible thanks to a tool that differentiates the feelings expressed by the pig's grunts. A group of European researchers studied more than 7,000 recordings from 411 pigs split between Switzerland, Denmark, Norway, France, and the Czech Republic. The samples ranged from the brief squeak of satisfaction at feeding time to the desperate grunt at slaughter.
Also piglets that is being reunited with litter mates. So that's very short. In general, what we find is that the positive sounds are much shorter than the negative ones.
Now, according to the researchers, the study allows for the development of a tool capable of monitoring the mental well-being of the pigs.
there is no automated on-farm monitoring for emotions that is clearly established yet, so that would be a very good addition for covering this part of welfare, which is the mental health of the animals.
Next up, Russian and Belarusian runners banned from joining Boston Marathon. Find out why. Former U.S. President Barack Obama now has his own Netflix show. And Harry and Meghan visit Queen Elizabeth II. Watch these stories and more when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by Canreave Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Services offered: supply and installation of elevators, escalators, air conditioners, ventilators, jet towel hand dryers, generators, access control system, factory automation and modernization. For more information, please contact Ami Kanke.
Kaming mga food experts,
expert din sa pagmamahal sa pamilya namin. And when we show our love to those closest to us,
we do it with Pure Foods corned beef.
Our gold standard in beefy taste,
texture, and quality.
That's why for us,
it will always be Pure Foods.
Dahil pag pure ang pagmamahal sa pamilya mo,
pure sarap ang ibibigay mo.
Pure sarap, Pure Foods.
Chinese-style luncheon meat. Ox dahil presyong pang everyday. Ox dahil ang sarap. Kaya di lang ox. Ox na ox ang Pure Foods Chinese-style luncheon meat.
We're 3 days out from one of the most anticipated and joined races in the world, the Boston Marathon. This year, however, runners from Russia and Belarus are not allowed to participate. In Boston, Julian Lu Evangelista tells us why.
Russian and Belarusian runners will not be allowed to take part in this year's Boston Marathon. The Boston Athletic Association said that because of the invasion of Ukraine, athletes living in these respective countries will be barred from the April 18 race. However, citizens of Russia and Belarus not residing in either country would be allowed to run, but not under the flag of either nation. The country affiliation and flags will not be recognized until further notice. Chief Executive Tom Grilk said in a statement, "Like so many around the world, we are horrified and outraged by what we have seen and learned from the reporting in Ukraine. We believe that running is a global sport, and as such, we must do what we can to show our support to the people of Ukraine." They did not indicate how many Russian or Belarusian athletes had entered this year's race. In 2019, 59 runners in a field of more than 30,000 were from Russia and Belarus. The Boston Marathon is one of the world's major marathons. The race was canceled in 2020 and then held in October 2021 with a smaller than usual field. Julian Lu Evangelista, Mata ng Agila International, Boston, Massachusetts, trusted, connected, on point.
Chanatip Songkrasin, known as the Thai Messi, is making his own name after joining one of Asia's top clubs. The 28-year-old midfielder is breaking new ground after a January move to Japanese champions Kawasaki Frontale. Though Songkrasin idolizes Argentine legend Maradona, his fans gave him the nickname Messi. The 5'2" football player was happy to be called the Thai Messi, but he has to keep adapting and show what he can do for their games. Songkrasin has helped Japan's Frontale top the J-League table with 10 games into the new season.
Golfer Bryson DeChambeau posted on his Instagram account that he had surgery on his broken left wrist. The 2020 U.S. Open champion, now ranked 19th in the world, had hoped to avoid surgery to repair the hairline fracture of his hamate bone. But his injury worsened when he took a tumble while playing ping pong with fellow pros at the Saudi International event. DeChambeau wrote on IG that he made attempts to play through his injury at 3 recent events, including the Masters. However, the continued discomfort from the fracture has caused him to alter his grip and swing, resulting in his inability to compete at golf's highest level. DeChambeau missed the cut at the Masters last week, but hoped to return to the top flight competition within 2 months.
Former U.S. President Barack Obama is now on Netflix. Obama, who has long had an interest in nature and the environment, just released his new documentary series, Our Great National Parks. Former First Lady Michelle Obama also shared the news of her husband's new venture via Instagram. She said that over the years, they have been lucky enough to show their girls some of the magic of the natural wonders of the world. She also invited netizens to watch the former president's show on Netflix. The Netflix show will highlight the beauty, history, and science behind the world's greatest national parks, wild spaces, and wildlife.
Will Wheaton had a sympathetic response to his Stand By Me co-star Jerry O'Connell's apology for not being there more for him amid his childhood abuse. Wheaton spoke openly about the abuse he endured, mostly in silence, from his parents during his childhood. After these revelations, O'Connell voiced support and sympathy for Wheaton. He expressed sentiments that he wished he was older back then so he could have helped his friend. Wheaton responded that he deeply appreciated his friend's apology and said that O'Connell was just 11 years old at that time. His friend couldn't have possibly known about the emotional abuses he was experiencing way back then. The actor also pointed out that a trauma survivor knows how to make a good cover about the abuses he is going through. Wheaton was 14 when he starred opposite O'Connell, River Phoenix, and Corey Feldman in the classic film Stand By Me.
Filipino-American David Bunavage has been arrested on federal wire fraud charges that he scammed millions from investors in his fake cannabis vape pen businesses. Federal authorities reported that the Phil-Am businessman and former decathlete allegedly conned more than $37 million from investors to fund a cannabis fake or vape pen business that didn't exist. Then he used the money to support his lavish lifestyle instead. Bunavage told investors his company sold vape pens containing THC and CBD, according to authorities. In an affidavit submitted by the complainants, Bunavage prepared a PowerPoint presentation to entice them to invest. Authorities also said that he allegedly forged documents, including bank statements, invoices, and legal settlements just to cover his own history of litigation.
Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, recently visited Queen Elizabeth II and the Windsor Castle on their first joint visit to the UK. This marks the couple's first return to the UK together since they gave up their formal royal roles and moved to the US more than 2 years ago. The couple's office said they visited the 95-year-old Queen on their way to the Netherlands to attend the Invictus Games. Harry is a founder of the Invictus, an international sports competition for wounded military veterans. The couple is expected to attend a reception in The Hague for the Invictus Games, which will start this Saturday.
Mako Komuro, formerly known as the Princess Mako of Akishino, gave up her royal title last year to marry the love of her life. Now she's working as an unpaid intern at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or the Met, in New York. The former princess completed a master's degree in art, museum, and gallery studies at the University of Leicester in the United Kingdom. She also studied art and cultural heritage at a Tokyo university, where she also met her husband, Komuro. While she works as a curator at the Met, her husband is a practicing lawyer in New York. Mako's marriage to Komuro sparked a public uproar, which drew contrasting views from all sides. The former heir to the Japanese throne apologized and expressed how grateful she was to those who supported her marriage.
Well, here's what happened today in history. In 1452, Leonardo da Vinci was born in Italy. Renowned for Mona Lisa and the Vitruvian Man, the painter, draftsman, sculptor, architect, and engineer epitomized the Renaissance humanist ideal. In 1947, Jackie Robinson became the first American or African-American player in Major League Baseball. He broke the color barrier in a sport that had been segregated for more than 50 years. In 2013, 2 bombs go off near the finish line of the Boston Marathon. This killed 3 spectators and wounded more than 260 other people in attendance.
Tonight's broadcast ends with a quote from the Greek philosopher Antisthenes. It is a royal privilege to do good and be ill spoken of.
But do good anyway. What do you say, CJ?
I think, you know what they say in show business, if you don't have haters, you have not made it. So you have to consider it a badge of honor when you do good and still get scorned for it. But you have to remember, no good deed gets diminished. It never gets diminished.
Exactly.
People will
just
remember
let
that.
them keep doing good.
Hate you. No haters, you have not made it. Sadly, charge it to human nature. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am CJ Hirro.
And I'm Nina Ricci, Alagao, Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
This program is supported by SMC Global Power.
Doktor na may puso hindi lang sa kanyang mga pasyente, pero extended na rin sa mga magsasaka. Ang kanyang mga naging pagresponde, ating pupusuan. Advocate group na tumutulong sa mga batang may sakit, matatanda at may kapansanan, ating sasaluduhan. Grupo ng mga teachers na ang dala ay tegulong na blackboard para sa kanilang mga mahihirap na estudyante at ang kanilang nakaka-good vibes sa advokasya. Inyong abangan! Isang grupong ginagawang kapaki-pakinabang ang mga plastic na basura ating kilalanin. Mapapanood nyo kami sa mga sumusunod na mga channel. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
It's summertime, mga kaagapay! Patindi na rin ang init. Kaya naman dito sa Unlad, pag-uusapan natin ang mga summer business na hit na hit.
Nag-start ako sa kombucha na home-based business lang. Malaking bagay na sa pamilya namin, especially this time pandemic, na nakakadagdag sa aming pinagkakakitaan.
Gulaman is a staple in the Philippines. A lot of people loves gulaman. Na-introduce to sa market, it was really a very good hit.
Ang product namin is complementary to them. Imbes na mag-soft drinks ka doon, inom ka na lang ng juice namin.
Tara na at siguradong mapapawaw ka sa success stories ng mga kaagapay nating humahakaw sa mga negosyong pamasid-uhaw. Ako po si Mariel Rodriguez Padilla at ito po ang Unlad Kaagapay sa Hanap Buhay!
Please don't